So if you're like me, you've probably picked up an older camera at some point and flipped it on, hit record, and just were completely disappointed by the autofocusing system in it. So I just want to share a few tips with you guys on how you can make the most of the autofocusing system in an old camera like the Canon 60D. So because the video autofocus in the Canon 60D is pretty terrible, I would suggest primarily two ways of focusing. So the first is AF quick, and the other is of course manual focus. So once you're in AF quick mode, you go ahead and just press the shutter button halfway down, just the way you would when you're taking a photo. And this is actually kind of like taking a picture. It uses the same like DSLR type focusing system, which gets you pretty decent results. Like it's way better than the focusing system that you'd have like with the video autofocus. So and the cool thing is that as long as you're not changing the focus while you're recording the video, it works phenomenally well. Like, I mean really well. For example, for vlogging, like what I'm doing right now, I'm actually shooting this on the Canon 60D. And yeah, I don't have any real issues with focusing because I focus it before I hit record, and afterwards it's perfectly fine. Now, of course, if you do want to change the focus, that's when you're gonna have to use manual focus. And I do have a couple tips on how to do that well. The easiest way that I find to learn it is to just use the magnification buttons in the beginning. This is super helpful. You press those buttons, you can just punch in and see if something is in focus. So just take a second or two before you hit record to make sure it's in focus. So now you might be asking, well, if I have to do this before I hit record, then why wouldn't I use AF quick? And I agree. Here's the thing though, if you start doing that, you kind of get that feel in your hand already after a while. Like how far you have to turn the lens, and after a while it just kind of becomes second nature to you. So one thing that I don't find a lot of people talk about is using a lower aperture, because typically you think if you have a lower aperture it will be harder to focus, right? But here's the thing, if you're shooting like a cinematic sequence, like some sort of, you know, B-roll, what you can actually do is, because you have that shallow depth of field, you don't actually have to focus it perfectly, and you know, people won't even notice. So for example, if you have a shot that's moving forward or backward, you can just kind of focus it more or less just with AF quick, pretty much just spot on to like one particular spot, and even if the whole thing isn't in focus, it doesn't matter because you're just moving around and nobody's actually going to notice anything. Now of course, if you're shooting a wide shot, this technique does not work. So that's where you pretty much don't have a choice but to use the magnification buttons in the beginning. Now the cool thing is, if you are shooting a wide shot, your focus is probably not going to change as much while you're recording, so that kind of takes care of that. So this basically covers both scenarios. If you're shooting something that's like super close up with a shallow depth of field, you pretty much just use AF quick in the beginning, or just kind of focus it, and just, you know, if you have a moving shot specifically in particular, it doesn't really matter if it's not perfectly in focus. If you are shooting a wide shot, focus it in the beginning and you're good. Now the only drawback of course is if you're, let's say, doing a close-up shot of something, or like me right now, if I'm focused on my face, and if I want to go ahead and film something else, I'll like turn the camera away. The issue with that is, of course, now I have a real issue focusing it, because I cannot use AF quick, and I also basically just have to rely on my own focusing skills. So the first thing I would suggest is, when you're shooting manual, what you can actually do is focus initially with AF quick and get that perfect focus, and then later on kind of have it in manual focus if you have to change the focus while you're recording. This obviously can be a bit of a bummer, like if you have to switch the button on your lens, so that kind of depends on the scenario there. And yeah, beyond that, just try to master manual focusing. It takes time and practice. There's really no magic to it. You just kind of have to do it and kind of have to start learning how to do it. But I do find that using the magnification buttons, like I said, does actually make it so you kind of get that feel in your hand already, like over time, as you start doing it. So I find that to be super useful. Boy, that was crazy. I just literally, like, there was a bunny sitting right here. Like, I am not kidding. It was like, I was just walking along, just too bad I didn't have the camera rolling at the time. All of a sudden, just a rabbit just jumps out right like 2-3 feet ahead of me. Like, that was kind of crazy. So close, and it didn't move, and I didn't notice it at all. Oh, I hope you guys enjoyed the video and the snow. I mean, come on, like, this is the first time we've had this much snow this year. I mean, this season, I should say. It's just like mid-October now. I think 20th of October right now. So yeah, this weather is crazy. My hair is like full of snow. It's kind of weird. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this video. And yeah, make sure to hit subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.